Well, hello and welcome to our Subconscious Speaks. My name is Don Robert, and this is my hypno partner.
Tina Orlando.
And together we are,
Tina Orlando.
and Dawn. Just doesn't get old. I'm sorry. Not sorry.
No.
Uh, in case you're new to the channel, Tina and I are both top award-winning graduates from HMI and clinical hypnotherapists. We're honors graduates, top of our class, top five, I believe, right, Tina?
Yes,
Both
sir.
of us,
Absolutely.
a rare breed we are. Uh, and we forged a friendship coming up on like 5 years ago as we were in school together and just really connected on so many different levels. And a few years ago, we started talking about like, I think Tina got approached to do a podcast by an outside vendor, and we were talking about it, and we were like, we should do a podcast and just record our conversations. And I feel like over the last several episodes, it it feels as natural as I was actually talking to a new friend, and she was like, "Well, how long does it take you to edit it after you guys do the episode?" And I'm like,
Yeah, that's
occasionally I might trim the beginning or the end because I'm talking in the end or whatever, and I'm like, "There's no editing. This is us. This is a conversational flow." And she goes, "Oh, I love podcasts that are like that."
yeah,
So
it's just conversation. There's no
yeah.
rehearsal, there's no
There's no rehearsal. Well, you could tell.
edit. There's no rehearsal,
Our
there's no
humanity
edit.
shows. Yeah. So, we're gonna have topics, of course, to talk about. But really none of I've not called Tina and said, "Hey, let's talk about this and that and this and that." Occasionally it's hard, like we were talking before this episode, and I was like, "This is episode material. Like I can't keep talking to you off air because this is good stuff that we can talk about for today's topic, which is fear."
Here.
Yeah. But just a little disclaimer, if you're new, we what we do here is we talk about the conscious, the subconscious, and everything in between. We invite you to follow us, like, subscribe, do all the button things, put on the little bell so you know that
Comment.
episodes dropped. New episodes do drop weekly. I try to post them on Sundays. So
Mhm.
we're typically recording on Saturdays, and then I'm posting. That's the editing is creating the posts.
That's
And then
it.
Tina is like taking her social media content to the next level with posting
Fine.
reels. Yeah, she's doing great. So Tina, let's talk fear. Where do you want to start?
Here. Well, I in my research over time, I stumbled across a number. 70% of our lives are spent contemplating fear.
Hmm. That's a pretty big number.
Yeah, that's a huge number considering that fear, and you can't talk about fear without talking about anxiety, but fear, you're living in that survival stress state. So, which means that we're always anticipating something horrible to happen, like we're all a bunch of chicken littles and the sky is falling.
Well,
70%.
so isn't that really tied back to the primitive part of our mind that we all have? It's innate inside of us. We're talking about fight or flight here, right?
Right,
Which is
right.
really the origins of it is legitimate because
Yes.
you're literally in the moment reacting. You're not thinking. I love when I talk about this with my new clients. I'm like, it's not like you and I are thinking like, "Ah, I think we could take that saber-toothed tiger back in caveman days, right? We don't have
Hmm.
a discussion about whether or not we can handle something. We're instantly getting a rush of adrenaline and running like hell or fighting to the death.
Right. And working out. So now mentally, we're working out worst case scenarios.
Right. That's because of that negative bias that we've been that term has made its way into our universe, and
Yes.
it's absolutely spot on that.
Hmm.
And I always thought like you've heard me say, and you my friend, and then anybody that's followed me on social media, like I've done bouts of posting videos every day, and I've talked about this 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 fear, like I have to work extra hard to be positive. And I always thought it was because there was some sort of darkness inside of me, or like, we did an episode on yin yang and light and dark, but like I did a little preparation on fear as well. I have some personal experience in my 12-step program around fear, like and it's really this fight or flight that's the issue. This negative
Hmm.
bias that's kind of a buzzword right now is really
Hmm.
about this built-in protector we have.
Yes, yes, it
Oh,
is.
I smell a butt.
But it is, but we've
Uh-huh.
then conditioned ourselves to be in that state because it becomes comfortable because it's a known. And when
Mm,
we're not in that state, we think, oh, okay, something's wrong. And then we go looking for more trauma or drama, whichever one you want it to be, to go back into that state. So it's like cyclical of the anxiety, the fear, and it keeps going around and around and around. Subconsciously, our bodies, which is the basic house for the subconscious mind, is we're looking for that uncomfortable state to be comfortable in, which is
mhm.
madness. It's madness when you think about it. Why are we doing that to ourselves? Well, it's a learned
Programming.
response. It's a
Yeah.
learned response, right?
Yep.
We got to get out of that. And the problem right now is visually and culturally and in the communities we live in, there is such a huge state of fear. Doesn't matter red, blue, doesn't matter what side you fall on, there's still fear going on for everyone. It's not about which side, it's about what we're taking in visually,
Mhm.
emotionally, and unfortunately, the autonomic system, the system that runs the things we don't think about, is running at 150% right now because everything we're taking in is fear based. So, what are we going to do about that, Don? What do you think?
Well, I think for me, understanding it helps a little. I'm a person that likes the details, as you know, right? Like I want to figure it
Mm-hmm.
out. And then
Right.
from there, once I can kind of put it in perspective for myself, and then of course it kind of vibrates out to the clients that I attract, right? I see a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people with that are just living in fight or flight, anxiety, fear, overload, being lethargic and unmotivated. And so helping understand it, right? So when I talk about fight or flight with them, they're like a little light bulb goes off and they're like, huh,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's me. Uh,
Right. Because the
and-
base of anxiety is fear.
right. Fear and stress and anxiety are like the bedfellows for sure.
Uh-huh. And it's a basic instinct of survival.
That's right. Yeah. It's really activating survival mode. I always
Mm-hmm.
talk about back in the caveman days.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
what was that show? It always makes me, whenever I talk about the caveman days, I like to use this analogy. What was it? Land of the Lost.
I knew you were going to say that.
I know I couldn't remember it for a second. I had a tiny
I
little block and then it whoosh.
I I knew you were going to say
What
Land of
was
the
it? The
Lost.
Slee Stacks or was that another show?
No, that their names? I don't
The
remember their
the the
names.
the the things, whatever the
Oh
thing.
yes, those things that well, nobody
Slee
knows what we're
Stacks,
talking
I
about.
thought. Or maybe
I
that's
could be it.
anyway.
Could be it. Yeah. So it's the fear of the unknown, right?
Right. But
But
it's instinctual and it's there on purpose to
yes.
protect us.
Hmm.
It
Hmm.
really does activate survival mode.
Yeah, but we're not running from
No,
sabers
and
and
so
tigers.
that's the story I like to tell, which is, if it's a it doesn't really matter male or female client. It's like so in the caveman days because it's primitive, right? So I just
Hmm.
like to use that analogy, and I'm like,
Hmm.
if me and Bob, my caveman brother, are going out to hunt, and we don't know what's going to happen, but boy, we're on red alert because we might be going out for the woolly mammoth for the coat and the meat to come back and for to make it through the winter in the cave,
Hmm.
but we don't know if a saber-tooth tiger is going to show up and attack us. So we're on the defense. And then I like to joke and I say, and when the saber-tooth tiger appears, we don't look at each other and like, I don't know, I think we can take him today. Like there's no discussion, like, and we have our own individual reaction.
Hmm.
to that, right? To
Hmm.
either fight or to run like hell. And then, of course,
Sure.
we've added the third one, which is what now?
That would be freeze.
That would be freeze, which is
Freeze.
lay down and play dead, literally. Or
Hmm.
in modern times,
Procrastination.
procrastination. Yeah.
Right. Hmm. Hmm.
So here's my pivot to kind of explain why I brought this up and what you just said about nobody's having to fight for food anymore. And then, of
No.
course, unless there's a great sale at Costco or something, know.
Well, yes, that's nobody's fighting for that. And with that idea in mind, everybody's afraid to sit with fear.
Mm,
This is where I got to when I was doing this research that everyone is afraid to sit with it. Like it's going to take you over, and it's not, right? So if you sat with fear long enough to allow yourself to feel where it lives in your body, to
mhm,
notice the stories that are going on in your head, because not everything you think is true.
right.
So allow like the story to unfold. Where does it live? Why does it live there? What is it? Who is it? Allow and give yourself the permission to be okay with giving it the attention long enough to identify it. Because once you identify it, once you know, identify something, you kind of take the mystery out of it. And maybe then I'm not asking you to hold on to it. I'm not asking for that. I'm asking you to
Right.
understand what it is, because then you can kind of shed light on what it's asking you to do, the fear. Because usually when there's fear, there's challenge of some kind, good, bad, indifferent. I don't know. We haven't identified that, but it at least leads you to the action, what you need to do now. Do you need to
Yeah.
face something? Do you need to rise up above it? Do you need to challenge it? Do you need to accept it? So once you shed some light on fear, you can at least then move through it. You can make the decision. Am I going to hold on to it? Am I going to let go? Am I going to take on the challenge and not let it then spiral into some unforeseen anxiety that you didn't even know you had?
So it sounds like you're taking what the kind of the first portion of what we've discussed is this natural occurrence that's built
Absolutely.
in, right?
Mhm.
That's getting activated for some reason. And you're saying, I think we're talking about like I'm saying I need to understand it, right? Before I can do something about it. And I think you're saying kind of the same, which is look at it
Mhm.
because and I just had this light bulb moment, and it may be basic, but I'm okay with it. Like if my body is set up this way naturally, right? I mean,
Mhm.
God given, whatever you want to call it, the universe, whatever, right? And I have this
Mhm.
built-in mechanism called fight or flight that's there to protect me. It's AKA
Absolutely.
survival mode. Then
Mhm.
maybe I should figure out why I'm going into fight or flight. What am
Mhm.
I trying to survive from?
Mhm.
Is that what you're saying?
Mhm. I am saying that.
I
I
need
am
like a little
saying that.
bell or a light bulb. Like that. That's good shit, right? Oh, yep, there it is. That's good
It's
stuff.
okay.
Yeah.
um, yeah, yeah, because
Yeah.
once you have that, you allow that to happen, then the vagus nerve, the autonomic system, and all
Mhm.
systems involved, it's not going to dysregulate as easily because you'll know what it is.
Right.
I mean, why are we afraid? Because it's something we don't know. So why not know it?
Yeah. So not all fears are, some of my favorite acronyms, right? The probably the most popular acronym for fear is false evidence appearing real.
Yes.
That's an unknown. Where I think
Mhm.
what we're starting to talk about initially is that maybe there's something that should be paid attention to.
Absolutely.
Like if you climbed out onto, the 20th floor um foyer and not foyer, but the like the ledge, that you would have a natural fear of falling and to your death,
Yes,
right? That's
absolutely.
normal, natural.
Yes,
Um,
it's
Most
survival.
people today, though, aren't having those kind of significant, obvious, what would appear to be an obvious fear, which is real,
Hmm.
And then we, oh my God, we can get all the way over into all the different fears that people have that are classified as disorders. Um, yeah, there's a boy, we could talk about this one for, I'm gonna have to, I'll be mindful about the clock. We
You and
could,
your clock. I'm going to get
well, I
you.
want to be, most people's commute is 45 minutes to an hour at, the worst.
Well,
So trying to be
yeah.
respectful. I want people to be able to hear everything and not have to come back but you're welcome to pause this and return anytime you want.
Well,
Yeah,
I I think that's part of getting to know what it is that's being activated in the body, right? Because we're
right,
not, being chased by the saber-toothed tiger. We're not standing on a ledge. We're not, climbing cliffs. That's not it. We're walking around, and yet we have this anxiety going on in people, and you have to find out, because at the base of that anxiety is fear. That's what that is. Fear
right.
of loss of control, of fear of failure, fear of success. I mean, those are just the three big ones, right? Like, you're out of control, you fear doing something or not doing something.
Right.
That's basically what we're saying.
Yeah.
Um, and if you're not in touch with what's going on, it doesn't even have to really make logical sense. I'm not asking you to hold on to the story. I want to just know what is going on, because that will lead you to what is actually happening. Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah.
Okay, good.
So you're back to kind of, I think we did an episode called Pause, right? Where we talked about watching, right? So
Well,
if
this
you're,
this I'm asking you to kind of say it out loud, shed real light on what is going on. Say your story. Like, if you were in this moment of fear,
Mhm.
anxiety, just to start writing down or speaking out loud what is going on, because you're
Ooh,
going to find the common thread. But
I just said, ooh, because you made me think of something,
well, okay, because you're going to find a common thread in your story
right?
of what is really going on for you.
So you know me, I like to talk about my personal experiences and I like sometimes I'll share in a general way things that are happening in session. So how are you using this to help people with fear in a session? It sounds like you're speaking from kind of a tactical approach that you have and working with somebody that says they have a fear. Do you have a general example you could share with us?
Oh, I ask my clients to write down what is going on in those moments. First of all, what's activating that anxiety fear response,
Right.
and what are the thoughts going with it? And maybe it's just one word. It could be, stress. It could be my boss, and they'll see a pattern of what they're truly stressing over that's causing this overwhelmed anxiety.
Yeah.
It's this constant thing that's going on. Um, and then I ask them to not hold on to it, to just observe it from a distance. So then it'll be hypnotically, they're going to observe that behavior in distance, so that then they can see, oh, wait a minute, that's just me freaking out in the moment. I'm still over here completely safe and
Hmm.
secure, which gives them control. Ultimately, that's what's happening is you're
Yeah.
at a loss of control. So I'm
Right.
trying to give them back their control over the situation. And that's the beginning of it, is to really get out of the participation of it and get into the observer of it.
That seems to be the crux of it is the participator of it,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
By feeding it, it's kind of like the two wolves kind of
Mm-hmm.
story, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where you put your attention, go.
Yes.
So
Yes.
yeah, that's the hard part, right? I hate to keep bringing up the book, but Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself talks about this, that like if you
Mm-hmm.
keep playing the same story over and over, and then I think I was reading last
You
night, it
keep
was like
traumatizing yourself.
if you and you're saying 70%, and I don't think Joe dropped a percentage, but he just generally said that you're basically having the same thoughts you had yesterday again today because
That's
of the
correct.
pattern, right? We talked about last week, the programming, right? We
Mm-hmm.
got into some
But
controversial
that creates the
topics around,
personality.
right.
Yeah,
And
I get it.
it creates the experience. And
Absolutely.
so once you get used to having an experience, you expect to have that same experience tomorrow.
Good, bad, or indifferent.
Yep.
Whether it's happy, sad, and angry, mad, like you're
Yeah.
gonna have that same experience over and over again because your body has memorized the emotion and the feeling and the
And
chemical release.
let's talk about getting into like a good kind of vibe, right? Like I call it kind of being in the flow.
Hmm.
We see world-class athletes get into this. We saw it during the Olympics, like people get in the zone, so to speak. And so they're expecting, based on their experience again, they've programmed themselves to expect greatness. And you talk about Simone with like a banged up leg, knee, ankle, couldn't even land, and she's like doing triple flipple, like how in that
12 feet in the air.
first of all, how do humans do that at all, let alone
Well,
with like a bum leg? It's
well,
because she had an expectation of it.
she knew her outcome.
She knew. Yeah.
She knew her outcome. Like
Yeah.
she rehearsed it so many times, it became automatic in her chemistry.
Ooh, good word, people. Did you catch it? Anybody catch it?
Mm-hmm.
Rehearse it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we've talked about kind of morning and evening routines, and those are great times to practice
Rehearse.
the rehearsal of
Hmm.
that which you actually want versus what you're experiencing. That's the
Absolutely.
power of the mind that can do that.
Absolutely.
Is there any
Athlete,
other hacks that we can use besides just, doing this AM and PM? Go ahead, say it. I mean, it's a softball. You better know what
I
I'm
mean,
inferring. I'm inferring right to your emo. Come on, man.
I don't know how you keep doing that. Sometimes I don't get it. Um, I mean, other than,
Would hypnosis work?
oh, hold on. I was going to say whether hypnosis does work.
This is live.
Yes, hypnosis does work. Um, and it's kind of the same. Like you become the observer of your existence, right? Like you
Right,
can see your your life kind of play out in the way you want it to, and
right,
that then lets the body know, hey, it's safe. It can achieve this. It can do this. There is no question because you're actually visualizing and imagining that happening. Which
right.
then, once that becomes a memorized thought pattern,
Becomes a
it
belief, a known.
becomes a belief and
You
a
can have
known.
new
And
knowns.
well, yes, and you can unlearn things you've learned, like
Yes.
your coping mechanisms of
Hmm.
anxiety, and
But Tina, that's how I always react to that.
that's a choice.
Just hate that one. Yeah.
That's
Okay.
a
Well,
choice.
right. Would you like to react differently? How about would you like to respond? I'm real big on that versus
Yeah,
the reaction to life
right,
or responding to life.
right. Well, you would want to respond,
Obviously. Yeah.
you know, um, maybe in a new way, in a new pattern. I mean, people get down so low sometimes that they're just in the muck of their own stuff, and they can't even see their way out. And that's really where that fear leads you to.
Isn't that the challenge of trying to, and I don't want to use the word fix, but to address this on your own? And
Yeah.
why there's talk therapy and hypnotherapy and light therapy and all sorts of different modalities to kind of look at this.
Get in where you fit in. I mean,
That's right.
whichever one works for you,
Yeah.
do it. I
Yeah.
mean, not everybody's the same and not everything works for everyone. They don't
Right.
connect, and that's okay. There's plenty of options and modalities, and there's plenty of people to do the work. And yeah, that is it. Like you can't fix the problem from inside. You have to get out of that emotion, right?
Yeah.
You can't fix
Um,
it from inside.
you brought up you figure out you want I think you were inferring that like when you work with your clients, you're asking them to identify where they're feeling it.
Absolutely.
Can you talk about,
Absolutely.
I have my own experience and opinion on that. I'm curious why you brought that up and what's the benefit of finding out where in the body it is?
Well, there's a couple of benefits. Depends on what you subscribe to, right? Like we all know the body holds trauma, but some disciplines suggest that there are body parts that hold certain traumas specifically.
Ah,
Whether it's left side, right side, is it,
hmm.
masculine, feminine? Is it mom, dad? Is it, private life is in your back, your public persona is in your front? Like, there's frustration that's always in the gut, which coincides beautifully with cortisol, which is also in your gut, and serotonin is created
Yeah.
there. So, I mean, that's why I want to know, like, are you holding on to this? Do you also have other issues? If somebody tells me that, they've got this, this gut wrenching feeling, my antennas are up at that point. And then my next question is, oh, do you have gut problems?
Mm,
I mean, you have a gut wrenching feeling. So do you have problems digestively or,
right.
and the answer is usually yes. They usually coincide because, as we know, the body holds trauma, but it does manifest. So that is why I always ask. And
Yeah, the body keeps the score, isn't that the truth?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it does.
All right.
That's why I
Because
ask.
where I went, because one of our other Joes that we love on our show here that hasn't made it to the show yet, but I haven't invited him either, is Joe talked about that release technique like that
Yes.
he did with me. And he was like,
Mm-hmm.
is it in your throat? Is it in your chest? Is it in your stomach?
Mm-hmm.
Mine is usually right around my heart chakra.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting
No.
enough. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, of course. It's
Yeah. What? Go
no,
ahead.
no, no, no.
It's
Uh,
just it's just a few hundred people listening. Go ahead. Say it.
it's fine. No, no, no.
Bring it
I was
back.
just, heart chakra. I mean, you're saying heart chakra, so you obviously know it's attached to an emotional
Yes.
release. Yeah. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the irony of the language of hypnotherapy, right? We have these terms called um, physical suggestible, physical sexuality, and then emotional. And like for a guy that's so emotional, I'm very physical in the way that
Oh yeah.
I learn, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
just funny.
Mm-hmm.
It's just an interesting play on words. Yeah.
Well, someday we'll get into that.
We really, yes. I did drop a very gentle invite to Cheryl when I saw her at HMI
Mm-hmm.
most recently that we would love to have her on the show. I don't think we're ready for her yet, but yeah, that what a treat that would be to get into
Well,
E&P. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. I think there's nobody better to just, do a quick little overview of
She
EMP
is the
better than
reigning
Cheryl.
queen, absolutely,
Absolutely.
100%. Yep.
And I think she's the only, I mean, she's queen to me. So,
Queen to me.
um, yeah,
Yeah.
she, she is literal, angel walking around the world, always. So,
Cheryl Neal is who we're referring to, in case you haven't heard us mention her before. She's one of
mhm.
the most amazing senior instructors at HMI, a direct descendant and student of Dr. John Kappas that started the school like 58 years ago with his brother Alex. Son
She's just a
George
beautiful
runs the
human.
school, but Cheryl is like the bedrock. She there's a couple of instructors that like are just the cornerstones of that school, and
Mhm.
she's one of them. And she's our
Absolutely.
imagery
Queen.
master queen. That is why we are both imagery masters.
Mhm.
Yeah,
She's just an amazing human. Besides all of her accolades, she's an amazing
she really
human being.
is. Yeah,
Hmm. The
100%.
kindest, gentlest, like
Giving,
soul.
caring,
Yeah,
empathetic.
I
Yeah.
mean, you can't say enough nice things about Cheryl.
No.
Period. So
Yes. Yeah.
I, you know, this she's a love.
Yeah.
Um, so, but still, um, where were we about
We
the
digress.
being? We
Yeah.
digress to
Yeah.
fear. Back
Um,
into fear. Here we go.
Yeah, so I didn't share it, but I want to share an exercise. I'm a seeker, right? So I've like always been open to different within the 12-step world and recovery and self-help. Like I'm not just one lane guy. I'm open to, and I had an experience with a guy that taught me a really simple exercise to try and figure out what really is the fear. We didn't talk about where I didn't have any idea about storing it in my body at that point. This is like 2000.
Hmm.
So, a couple decades ago, older than some of our listeners. Um, and he said that, and it uses the word God a lot because it's a prayer, but whatever if you don't like the word God, use universe, spirit, creator, whatever. But here's what it looks like. God, I have fear that I'm not going to have enough to pay the bills. God, I have fear that if I don't have enough to pay the bills, I'll be homeless. God, I have fear that if I'm homeless, I'm going to be an embarrassment to my family. And like it eventually it trickles down to what you're really afraid of. And then from there
Hmm.
you would pray to have it removed and turn your attention
Hmm.
to who that power would have you be, as we've learned to talk about and explore getting closer to living as our higher self.
Hmm.
And it was just it's such a simple exercise to, because the fear that you're having might be just kind of up here based on what other people are experiencing, and you're just kind of relating to it. And you're like, oh my God, yeah, I'm freaked out about what a lot of people are currently in fear of the election.
Right.
It's kind of this looming thing over us all. And so this would be a great example of how to figure out what that fear up here looks like. If this person becomes president, then, and you can cascade it down to what you're really afraid of. And then from
Hmm.
there, that's what you would work on. It's not that he or she is going to get elected. It's
Hmm.
everything
Yeah.
that is the cascading effect of that, that
Hmm.
that kind of baseline fear, kind of upper fear. Is it my making sense?
Conscious thought
Are
fear.
you picking up what I'm laying down?
Yeah, of course. It's your conscious thought. That's your waking mind, right? Like
Hmm.
you got to get deeper into the emotion and the feeling and
Yeah,
what's really going on. That's why
right.
you're kind of narrowing it down. It's brilliant.
Yeah, it usually narrows down to like I'm not going to be enough, have enough, or feel enough.
Hmm.
Those
Hmm.
are usually the bottom line fears that I think we all have.
Yeah, it's funny. Fear always feels like quicksand to me.
Yeah,
The harder you move around in it, trying to get out of it, the more it actually pulls you in instead of just observing. And this is why I always implore everybody to just observe it. Just observe it. You don't have to own it. Not everything you think is real. Not fear isn't really a real thing, anyways, right? Like, because if
it's
the 99% of things you're afraid of are never going to happen,
it's false.
right?
Yeah,
So just observe it. And, it's kind of like anxiety. People think they're going to die from anxiety. And yes, they do feel that way. I am sympathetic. Um,
yes,
but you're not. And maybe that's the only word you can get out is I'm not I'm not going to die from anxiety. Nobody ever dies from anxiety. Other things, yes, but not anxiety.
right.
It's
It
it's
feels
your
like it though.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
Oh, absolutely. You feel like you're crippled into what is that, the fetal position, and you just can't. The best thing to do is move outside of that if you can. Some people can't. They cannot get it together enough to walk through it. That's why I'm saying if you're observing it from a distance, it does sometimes um, ungrip it.
ungrip it. Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
making up my own word, ungrip it.
yeah, yeah. No, I like it. I like it. Yeah,
Well, it's true. It's got a grip on some people, and um, it is crippling if you are in it. So
it sure
get out
can
of it.
be. That's right.
Yeah,
Especially if
absolutely.
you continue to feed it. If you don't take our advice from any of the previous podcasts of topics we've discussed and don't, like, there's tools that can
Mhm.
help I I don't know why I'm just now, just in case you're not on YouTube watching us, Tina has got the full-on pumpkin head coffee mug,
Mhm.
which is adorable. Look at you. That's awesome. Don't know why I just noticed that. I did notice it before, but I was like too busy kind of introducing us and whatnot. And I was like, oh, cute. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's good. It's fun. You know.
All right.
Um,
Well, where do you want to go from here? I mean, there's so many different things we could talk about.
well, I mean, have you ever had that crippling fear? I know I have.
I have had I've had a lot of crippling fear. I've had
Oh, you're
situational,
human.
yeah, I've had very situational fear as
Hmm.
well. Um, and a lot of my managing of that was turning to my faith.
Okay.
Because I've been kind of taught that the opposite of fear is faith. There's an old euphemism that I
Uh-huh.
learned a long time ago that fear came to the door, faith answered, and there was nobody there.
Right. Right. I get it.
Yeah. It doesn't I've noticed as I became as studied as a hypnotherapist and then was working with pro bono clients during a very stressful time of the our life COVID, and now more and more, and the more people that are stressed and anxious, it's not I'm not really talking a lot about faith.
Yeah, no.
I'm talking about tools to interrupt, mitigate, and regulate. The breathing is key. Getting that as you kept mentioning, the autonomic nervous system back to
Hmm.
parasympathetic, back to ease and comfort is possible.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You have to you have to get out of it. That's the feeling of that fear based, anxiety. That's you wanting to escape something, whether it's, a feeling in your body, a thought, an emotion. And the trick is that you will kind of lie to yourself. Like
Mm,
you think you're dying, you're not dying. Or you think, you're you're having an anxiety attack. But if you have an Apple Watch and look at your heartbeat, it doesn't match.
right.
How about that?
Of your experience, you're saying.
Oh, I've had this
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't match. And you're like, wait, but I feel this. No,
Right.
no, you're not really feeling it. It's kind of in, and I don't want to say it's in your head, but it kind of is in your
Kind of
head, right?
is. It kind of
Kind of
is.
is. Like
Absolutely.
you're believing that track that's going on, and then you're trying to figure out why, and how can I stop it is more than why in those moments. And all you sometimes you can do is just hold on and wait for it to pass and then kind of review it. But the other side of that is if you were in that state and somebody dropped you in the middle of chaos, like you had to run for your life in that moment, do
Hmm.
you think that you would still be worried about your anxiety?
Oh, hell no. You'd be running like
Right.
hell. Yeah.
Right. So if that's the case, then you could overcome it by thinking about, like, focused in on something else. Now, I'm
So
not saying it's easy.
isn't that the challenge though?
That is
To
the challenge.
self-govern your thoughts,
Yes.
right?
Yes. That's what I'm
Because
saying.
of
Like,
everything we've been talking about for, I think it's like episode 14 or something, but like it's just that pattern, the loop that we get stuck in, which is,
yeah,
well, that's how I dealt with it yesterday. That's what I'm going to do today. And like you just keep perpetuating the thing that doesn't work.
right. And it's, then you're exhausted afterwards, or you have all this stress afterwards, or,
Sure.
your body's trying to, work out those, with the chemistry and the biology of who you are.
Hmm.
You have to get out of your own head. You have to get out of your own head. It's the only way through. It's true. It's the only way through.
Mm.
I'm telling you. Like, you can medicate yourself, you can go see a doctor, you can do all of those things, but what happens when you're taking the medication and you still have the anxiety?
Yeah. That's so now we're beyond the chemical because some people need a little chemical help, right?
Sure, absolutely. They might
Um,
need to reset something.
yeah.
Sure. Or they've been through a traumatic experience.
But that
Absolutely.
doesn't address the core issue, which is the why. What's going on? What's this attached to? And what story do you need to rewrite?
Mhm. Or even just express. Because what if it's one of those
Right.
things that you don't talk about?
Yeah.
What's the story going on
That is
that is
that's a whole nother
trapped?
topic, which is who we present as and who we are. And there's a pretty big gap.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And, everybody has that though.
All of us, me and
Absolutely.
you. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm not
Humans.
coming on here with, yeah, it's like me, it's like Drew Barrymore did a show the other day. She didn't have any makeup on, and neither did any of her guests. And it's shocking, right? Because you have this image of Drew Barrymore in your head,
Right.
and that's not how she looked. She's still
That's Drew
adorable.
Barrymore, the actress. That's who that
Absolutely.
is. Yeah.
Absolutely. But that's not how she looks. And when she took off all her makeup,
Right.
does that, she was just showing you who she truly is, which is, as a woman, that's
Well,
admirable.
now we're tapering off into which I feel like I should take a note on this whole like topic of like that's you said that's not who she really is, which so it's just a mask, like literally and figuratively, but like
Yeah,
isn't who we really are is who we are inside, how we treat others, how we act in the world. Isn't that who we really are? Or is it the
sure.
persona that we present?
No, no, we are not the persona that we present.
There's
No,
parts of us that
sure.
are.
I mean,
Absolutely.
it's not completely fake.
Yeah.
Um, but who you are in your everyday life. Like, you show up, your hair's not done, your makeup's not on, you're in your pajamas. Like, okay, is that who you truly are?
Again, I'm just well, so you know me and my silly shows that I like to watch. There's a show called Love is Blind that is just I'm just fascinated with
Oh, yeah.
because the premise of the show is incredible that these people are connecting with each other outside of the race, creed, color, the just it's just purely conversation and
Hmm.
energy, right? So
Hmm.
there's a wall between them that you can feel energy
Yep.
in a walled off situation, but it's more so about just a vibe, which is energy,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
That's why I'm saying that it's not about makeup or not no makeup or hair done or not done. Do those things play into the programming of the other person, which, if you're Gen Xer, you're used to being bombarded with advertisements of what you should
Hmm.
look like, eat, and do,
Yes.
right? That's
Yes.
programming. We talked about
Yes.
this.
Yes.
Um, I'm suggesting that it's beyond the physical. Absolutely,
Hmm.
I think.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm. Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying it's not. Your
Okay.
persona is who you truly are, right? Or your persona is what you show the world, but who you truly are, that's your person. That's who you are,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
That's what we're saying.
Yeah.
And we all have it. We all do it.
There's everybody's got some sort of gap.
Yes, some are bigger than others.
This is true. This is
Mm,
true. Yeah.
it's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
Um, I had this other thought, like when you're talking about just kind of, I asked you about working with clients, and you said that you have them write down like an accounting of the fear and what where it is and what it looks like, uh, um,
And the
and then
story.
I feel like I want to talk about how we because I know we're very similar, well, maybe different approaches at times with a
Mhm.
client, but I think based on our award-winning criteria and credentials, I would say that we're probably pretty close to doing the same thing. Um, I guess I just wanted to like see if you were interested in talking about our experience as hypnotherapists and what we do with people once, okay, so now your client comes to you having done their homework, right? And
Hmm.
they've
Hmm.
got some writing that I'm
Hmm.
assuming that I don't want to put words in your mouth because I don't know what you do, but then what do you do? I kind of wanted to I want to peel the curtain back a little bit for our listeners on what it might be to work with either one of us on their own anxiety and fear and fight or flight that's happening.
Hmm. Um, so it really depends on the person, what I'm going to do, the way we're going to do it. The idea is to get the distance, though, whether I'm doing some type, it's always the hypnosis part is so that they can watch it on a screen if that's the type of person they are.
Right.
Maybe they're going to see it from a distance depending on the person. So usually it's a TV screen or a movie screen that they can then fast forward, they can replay, they can stop, they can completely throw away that tape if they want
Yeah.
at the end. So and that seems to be the kicker was I had somebody that wanted to throw away. They wanted to watch it burn under the light of the projector. This tape that they had going, this movie that they had in their life. And
Yeah.
I thought, well, that's kind of brilliant because they're the ones that said it. They said, well, I'm going to watch it burn. I said, oh, okay, we're going to watch it burn. All
Yeah.
right. And they did. And they didn't have this choking anxiety fear of going back to school. They were terrified to go back to school.
Yeah.
Mm. Out of COVID, terrified to go back to school. And they were, and I said choking because that's where they felt it, like they couldn't breathe. Go figure, because it's COVID, right?
Right.
Um, so there was all these little pieces that were going into this um, journey, we'll call it,
Yeah.
and they wanted to watch it burn so that they knew they couldn't replay it.
I like that.
And yeah, I
It
thought it was
reminds
kind
me
of
of the a kind of general modality of imagery and kind of unburdening the burdens, which we've talked about before
yes,
offline.
yes,
Um,
which
yeah,
is a
I
great
love
one.
that.
Hmm.
And being both imagery masters, there's so much imagery that you
Hmm.
can use to blow up, leave behind, sink, burn, melt.
Throw
What
away,
I mean, what
melt,
you gotta, and that's
cut
really
up.
where the care of the therapist
Hmm.
takes the time to better understand. And I like the idea
Absolutely.
of you giving them this assignment
Hmm.
of paying attention and writing it down. Um,
Well,
I
the
like that.
bonus was that when they were focusing on what it was
Yeah.
and trying not to attach themselves to it, it did not last as long, they said. This
Doesn't have as much
anxiety.
power. Yeah.
Right. So, and they
You're a
need,
witness instead
sometimes,
of the main player.
right, right. You're the observer, you're the watcher. It's not
Yeah.
happening to you.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of things there that, came out of this. It was two or three different clients of mine that I kind of put this observer together, and using imagery, of course, but
Of course.
of course, using the imagery and, making it fit for somebody specifically for them, especially though, but
Yes.
the theater was the basis of it. But then you added in, them watching the reel, they're putting the
Hmm.
reel on there, they're doing it, making them
Yeah.
responsible so that they can then watch it burn,
Yeah.
which is brilliant. Which is brilliant.
I'm very partial. A lot of my imagery is around nature.
Hmm. Hmm.
I like
Absolutely.
nature. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because
Absolutely.
who can't visualize, imagine, or picture like a beautiful beach or a grassy knoll or like a hill
Hmm.
or a field with
Hmm.
flowers and like, you know, unless you
Absolutely.
live in Alaska, but even Alaska has summer.
Well, they have summer. They have beautiful summer. It's like
Yeah.
what, 85 degrees there.
Yeah.
Um, But this, this whole theater, I wanted to get them out of their own stuff. And that's part of it, is getting out of your normal,
Right.
getting out of your routine of what happens when the anxiety and the fear take over. What is it? Is it fear of failure? Is it fear of success? Is it fear of loss of control?
Right.
It's one of the three usually,
Yeah.
not enough. So, you know, that way they then kind of tell their own story to themselves. That's how you do it.
And then,
That's how I do it.
so one of the things I remember, I forget where in the year-long program that I picked this up, but it was like it seems so remedial, but it's so at its basic core powerful, is that when we're in the cognitive portion and they're giving you this information, whether they've you've had somebody do homework or not, or if you're just talking about it in the cognitive portion of the session. Like I'm feverishly, you see me when I look down when we're talking, I'm note taking because like notes are powerful because I find that when I can take the words that you're saying, I might even be as blatant as like, well, okay, so that's what happens when you feel like that. How would you
Mm-hmm.
like to feel if you had control?
That's
What would
right.
that look like? And there's
Mm-hmm.
this light bulb moment where people just go, first of all, there's this kind of odd, like, I don't think that's allowed. And I'm like, no, absolutely it is. It's your thinking. It's you.
Right. Right.
You
Mm-hmm.
can take control. Um,
Right.
so if I like to get them talking about what they prefer in the
Mm-hmm.
response to the issue that we're talking about versus
Mm-hmm.
the reaction, right? Because the reaction is the emotional, vomiting of this is how I feel, this is what happened. It always happens to me. What's next? Like, is the other shoe going to drop? Like all those negative known
You,
associations to their
mhm.
lives. Yeah. What you're
you,
chomping. Go.
I am. Usually, usually my question after the verbal, you know, purging of
Yes.
their
Nice
situation,
word.
I ask them,
Yeah.
um, what is it serving?
Hmm.
What's it serving you to have this? Is it protecting? Is it keeping you safe? I don't prompt them. I'm prompting
Hmm.
you, but that's what I'm looking for,
Right.
is what it's serving. I let them tell me all those things because I'm going to use all those things in in the hypnotic part of it.
Right.
Um, so I let them purge everything out. Then I ask them what it's serving them, because sometimes the answer is right there.
Yeah. Isn't that wonderful?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I don't tend to say this out loud, but it's like occasionally, depending on the rapport that I have with somebody, and if they're like one of my people, as I like to say, when I do the suggestibility questionnaire and they're answering all the questions that I would answer, and I'm like, you're my people. Like, there's this moment where it's like, I will use this, like it's like a cop thing. Like I can and will use this against you later in the
Absolutely.
session, right? Because when I've found, and I'm sure you'll agree, I'll be doubtful if you don't, that using the specific words that people use when they allow themselves to break free from the negative loop and habit, and they
Mm-hmm.
talk about what they would prefer. Well, I'd much rather have like an easy heartbeat and be able to just calm myself with a couple of breaths. That would be perfect. And then
Mm-hmm.
what would you feel? How would you feel then? Right? And
Mm-hmm.
I get them back in
Right.
their body.
Right. Right.
And then I'm giving that back to them when we're using imagery to create a picture. Because as you know, the subconscious doesn't know if it's fancied or real. It
Right.
doesn't know if you're making something up or if you're just re-experiencing something. So we're going to use that to your advantage.
Mm-hmm.
And so you
Absolutely.
start painting a picture of what they've just told you that they'd
Mm-hmm.
prefer, and it's like instant.
But this is why you need somebody to help you, because you can't get out of that by yourself.
Yeah, I've tried.
Uh,
I've tried. I've
We've all
done
tried.
I've recorded myself trying. I'm like, I used to joke with Tina and be like, man, I wish I could hypnotize myself. And yes, there are self-hypnosis techniques out there. They're very effective, but like there's
Absolutely.
nothing that compares to working with a hypnotherapist that's skilled
That's
and
right.
gifted,
Yeah,
such as we, such as us. Yeah.
absolutely. Well, I
The,
mean, it gives you it gives you a reflection, right? And
mm,
it gives you as the patient, the client, a reflection of somebody else. You can't do that for yourself. You don't even know what you look like when you look in the mirror, let alone your own stuff. Like sometimes you just got to get it out and then it makes sense.
yeah.
So that's why,
The
it's
purge
just
is
better.
so important. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And
You
then
can't
when
get it.
you're with somebody that's trusted, that you can trust with those, and then is skilled enough to say, okay, well, let's look at the other side of that. What is
Mhm.
the yin of that yang, or the yang of that yin, or
Right,
what would you prefer?
right, right.
Like
What do you
such
prefer?
so
What
simple,
do you
but
desire?
so effective that allows
Mhm.
somebody to just all of a sudden step into recreating themselves.
Absolutely. I'm just the guide along the way. I'm the tour guide Barbie.
I think most people would agree that there is a certain level of programming, regardless of your level of conspiracy theorists. I think all of
Mhm.
us have some general acceptance of not everything we're being told is the truth, that there is some
Abs-
programming going on in the world, right?
Yes,
Not just political, just everything, diet, like exercise, all of it. And then
all of
now
it.
you've got a rainbow of different approaches to these things.
Hmm.
Uh,
Absolutely.
Again, I forget how you said it earlier, but like you have to find what works for you.
Absolutely. Get in where you fit in.
Get in where you fit in. There it is. I like
Get
that.
in where you fit in.
Yeah, I've heard that before.
Ab-
I just like that. Yeah. So, I mean, I
It's
think
right.
that's like that's what a great place to end, I think, today is like get in where you fit in. And if you want to get in with Tina or I, in the show notes, I call it show notes. I don't know if that's the right language, but in the description of the podcast, on the channel itself, it has our websites and contact information and our socials. And we actually have what's that thing called that I made last week? Uh,
Summary.
Geez, the thing that has all of our information, the one
Link tree.
link tree. There it is. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah, we got a pretty sharp link tree that Don created. So, good
Yay,
job.
done.
Yeah, you gave me yay Don last week. Yeah, thank you. Um, so what anything to add, or like is that a good place, you think? Get in where you
I
fit
think
in?
I think get in where you fit in works great.
I love it. Yeah.
You know, you got to make a decision. Are you gonna, are you gonna fear everything and rise?
Yeah.
Or are you gonna fear everything and run?
Yep. Yeah, there is the other one that we can't say the F word and everything and run, right? Which is what most people tend to do is that fight or flight part of they don't fight, they run or they lay
You don't
down.
have to. It's a
Oh,
choice.
it is. It seems to
Mhm.
be an autonomic choice
Right
for
now it
most
is.
people,
Right
because
now
it's
you're
been
running on
programmed.
autopilot. Right.
Yes,
So right
yes.
now, yes. But if you're in it and you don't want to be in it anymore, you can choose to fight like hell and get out of it.
Help is available.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
We're right here
100%.
waiting.
Yep. So on that note, I will say that you can like, follow, or subscribe. Our websites are in the description. Feel free to share this with anyone that you think would benefit from it, which would be everyone.
Everyone
Um,
has
Feel
fear.
free to comment. We like comments, questions, wonderings.
Mhm.
You never know when your comment or wondering could turn into an episode. And
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Tina. This has been excellent. It was everything that I hoped
As
it would
always.
be. We have such a wonderful rapport with each other and mutual respect, and I just love you so much. Thank you.
I love you bunches. You know
Yeah.
that.
All right, you want to close this out?
Oh, our subconscious speaks. The question is, are you listening?
Ears on, people. Yeah. All right. Well, that's it then. Have a great rest of your day. Hopefully, traffic's been good to you and you've enjoyed this episode. Come back for more, and we'll see you soon.